4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS, number 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZachGelb. Ian Eagle, who's been all over calling the NCAA tournament, will be on the call as the new voice of the Final Four for CBS. So he has two games to get to coming up on Saturday. Going to stop by at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific today. And then Alabama big man Nick Pringle, who just took over the game in the Elite Eight as Bama has punched their ticket to the Final Four. He will stop by at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. We got a whole lot to do. Our men's Final Four is set with Purdue taking on going up against UConn in the Final Four, going up against Alabama, and we will see Purdue going up against NC State. I want to start today, though, with the women's tournament. And no disrespect to the men's tournament. I think that the Final Four, it's going to be intriguing to see if Alabama can keep with UConn. And then you do have the matchup of the two bigs with DJ Burns and then also Zach Edey, who's the most dominant player in the country. But I have a lot of excitement tonight for the women's Final Four and the Elite Eight and the matchups that we're going to see. And I just think that it's a wonderful day for women's college basketball when you look at these matchups in the Elite Eight with UConn and USC, and then LSU and Iowa as well. And I know UConn, USC, it takes a back seat to LSU and Iowa, but even that UConn, USC game with Paige Buckets and then Juju Watkins as well, those are just two incredible stars, in their own right. And Juju Watkins, probably the future of women's basketball in college. And then for Paige Buckets, like we all know what she was before the injury as well. But the buzz around the women's tournament, and I know that Kim Mulkey said this after their victory over the weekend against UCLA, that it feels like once you found out that Iowa was advancing too, because that game was second, it does feel like this LSU-Iowa game should be in the Final Four. But when the bracket did come out, the first thing that we all looked at was, okay, where's Caitlin Clark? Where is Angel Reese? And where can the potential collision course come with those two schools and with those two females, just to see them eventually get on the court and do battle once again? And now we have that answer. We knew what it was going to be, that it would be the Elite Eight with the trip to the Final Four, and the women's Final Four is going to be in Cleveland. But this matchup tonight, it has created the most interest and buzz, at least for me, that I've ever had with a women's basketball tournament. And it's not just Caitlin Clark. It's not just Angel Reese. Heck, Flaugier was phenomenal for LSU over the weekend. And we talked about Paige Buckets. We talked about Juju Watkins as well. But I'm not just going to try to sell you things to drive excitement and to drive hype and to try to make something be bigger than what it actually is. Like, that's not my job. But there is a natural interest that I have in both these games tonight. And it's not just one game that you have interest in, because if it was just LSU and Iowa, don't get me wrong, we all know what that was in the championship and how many eyeballs it did drive to TV sets and what it did for the game of women's college basketball. But it just shows you that the sport is in a really good spot. And I get it, the men's tournament, I don't want to say it's not as exciting as in years past, but there's not as many household names, with Jay Wright going into retirement, Coach K going into retirement, Roy Williams going into retirement, Kansas bowing out early in this tournament, Jim Boeheim no longer a part of it, with he is now a broadcaster. But you look at the men's tournament, the biggest recognizable name is Zach Edey. And then when it comes to coaches, it's clearly Danny Hurley. And we all know the dominance of the UConn Huskies. And for Purdue, it was, can they find a way to get over the hump? And now they're in the Final Four, and we'll see if they can knock down two more victories to hoist the national championship. But just in terms of the ladies that we're recognizing, they're bigger stars right now than the men's game. Like, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are bigger stars than anything the men's game has right now. And I usually would never watch the women's tournament. Like in my lifetime, of course I watched it a few times when it was the championship with Gina Auriemma and Diana Taurasi and some of those UConn teams. Obviously with the late, great Pat Summitt and some of those Tennessee teams that she's had. But for the most part, on a national radio show, and most of our audience being men, we usually aren't talking about the women's tournament unless there is something controversial. But what I think the beauty here is there is a basketball reason. No scandal, no off-the-court things, but a basketball reason and a genuine basketball excitement to want to watch these two Elite Eight games tonight. And it's not just one, right? It's not just Angel Reese going up against Caitlin Clark. It's also the UConn and USC game as well. And this was the buildup. This was the hype. This was the sport all before the season started. It was, when are we going to see Caitlin Clark? When are we going to see Angel Reese do battle up against one another? But the other storylines that have grown from this tournament, and you knew going in, Dawn Staley at South Carolina, her undefeated team, and now they're off to the Final Four. You knew that was going to be a mega storyline. You knew UConn with Paige going to be a mega storyline. USC with Juju, a mega storyline. And it just shows that the excitement with the women's game, it's genuine, and it's because of one thing. And it doesn't matter, male or female. It doesn't matter what sport it is. What draws us to sports? Big personalities and star players. And tonight, there's no two bigger star personalities in their sport than Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And Caitlin Clark kind of has had a Steph Curry-like impact to the game of women's basketball. And for Angel Reese, she is not afraid to talk trash. I love that. Like, if any male talked the same amount of trash as Angel Reese, we'd be like, so what? So I like the competitive fire, the competitive juice that Angel Reese brings to the game, and she's not afraid to rub it in your face when she is winning the game, towards the end of the game. So we kind of build it up in the fan bases as there is a legit animosity and a legit hatred between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. But when you hear both of them speak, that is not the case. Because there is a difference with when you're between the lines and you're on the court until off the court. So let's just hear actually from Caitlin Clark first. This is on her once again squaring off against Angel Reese and LSU.
Me and Angel have always been great competitors. Obviously, she played in the Big Ten for a while to begin her career, and that's what makes women's basketball so fun is, you have great competition, and that's what we've had all year long. But I think Angel would say the same, is like, it's not just us in women's basketball. That's not the only competitive thing about where our game is at, and that's what makes it so good.
And then let's hear Angel Reese on her relationship with Caitlin Clark.
Me and Caitlin Clark don't hate each other. Like, I want everybody to understand that it's just a super competitive game. And, like, I would just wish people realize that, like, once I get between those lines, it's no friends. I have plenty of friends on the court that I talk to outside of the game. But, like, when I get between those lines, like, we're not friends. We're not buddies. I'm going to talk trash to you. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get in your head the whole entire game. But after the game, we can kick it. Like, I don't think people really realize that. And that's fine. I'll take the villain role. I'll take the hit for it, but I know we're going women's basketball, and if this is the way we're going to do it, then this is the way we're going to do it. You like it or you don't.
I think the hatred is really between the fan bases, and it's really between fans. That's what it is, because we like rivalries. We like these iconic, classic matchups. I saw someone ask, it was either Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, do you feel like what you two have meant to women's basketball is kind of Bird and Magic Johnson like that was brought up in the press conference to kind of make a historical reference from years ago to maybe in the year of 2024, and you factor in last year as well, what the rivalry, let's just say, between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark has really brought to the sport, and you've seen the growth of the sport. But it's okay when we see rivalries and you associate and you think, okay, that they're always going to be hatred, but there is a difference with hatred on the court and then hatred away from the court. And it's obvious, and they both even said it, that there is a profound respect for Caitlin Clark to Angel Reese and Angel Reese to Caitlin Clark. But we know this, as it should be, Both of them want to win this game in the worst way, and it's just going to be exciting theater and exciting basketball tonight. And it's just the first game, because the second game, I'm not going to say it's going to be just as good, because there's obviously more hype and more buildup with LSU and Iowa. But from a star presence, to see those two stars for UConn and USC, I think it's going to be a great double dip tonight in the women's NCAA tournament with the two last Elite Eight matchups with LSU and Iowa and UConn and USC. I also want to touch on Kim Mulkey right out of the gate as well. So we all know last week, and my initial gripe, it wasn't even with Kim Mulkey. My initial gripe was Pat Ford, or Pat Forty, whatever his name is, and he put out this tweet. And it was this tweet basically saying, like, I'm here and there's this big article that the Washington Post is putting together. And when I first read that, I'm like, man, it's so obnoxious when someone who's not even associated with the article or even associated with the company is basically putting out this tweet of, look at what I know and you don't know, without really giving us great information or great insight of really what the article is going to be. But when you saw that Pat Forty tweet, I kind of inferred that this was going to be a hit piece, bombshell, explosive article just attacking Kim Mulkey. That's the way that I thought it was going to be. And Kim Mulkey, we all know that she eviscerated the reporter and eviscerated the Washington Post and eviscerated journalism. And I'm not saying you have to agree with everything Kim Mulkey says, but I think after you have read the article, which wasn't anything crazy, it didn't really reveal all that much. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a women's college basketball expert. But when I read the article, you knew about her relationship or lack of it with Brittany Griner, who she coached at Baylor. And the only thing I really learned, which was not new to people that follow the sport and follow Kim Mulkey day in and day out, is she doesn't talk to her sister anymore, and she doesn't talk to her father anymore. And the beef with her father spans over nearly 40 years. So what I could gather, and I think this is what drew such a strong reaction from Kim Mulkey, it was she kept on hearing people that were contacted by the reporter who was doing his job. And she had ample amount of opportunities to respond. The story, I guess, was in the works for 2 years. Kim Mulkey claimed, I don't know if that's true or not. But when you put a deadline and let's say you got 2 years to respond, I'm not going to feel bad for you when you can't meet the deadline. But in the article, it talks about the lack of relationship with their father and everything over a dispute leading up to her wedding. And then also father walking out in the family, things like that. But I think if I could just maybe humanize this and put my human thinking cap and just like experts of emotions here, I think she probably got wind that they reached out to her father for this piece. And that's what really set her off, because even though you're a public figure and nothing's really personal, that is a personal matter. And if you haven't talked to your father in nearly 40 years and he sadly has to like get into the stadium and sit in the back to even watch his daughter coach, I don't think, and I know Kim has talked about her father before, but I don't think Kim wants a journalist reaching out to her father. I'm not saying that the journalist is wrong for doing that, but I believe that's why you had such a strong over-the-top reaction from Kim Mulkey on that piece. But the article comes out, and in a span of 24 hours, it is funny to me how the perception of Kim Mulkey changed. Because online, the perception of Kim Mulkey, just in terms of the article, was, wow, she freaked out over nothing. And the article, for the most part, it was a fine read. But it wasn't anything earth-shattering. It wasn't anything jaw-dropping in the article. There was no aha, like I got you type of moment. But then after the game, when Kim Mulkey and her squad had a thrilling victory up against UCLA, I was not aware that there was an LA Times article that was written, like a commentary piece before the game. So this had nothing to do with the Washington Post story. This was the LA Times, and the author in the article, when previewing the UCLA LSU game, said, this isn't just a basketball game, it's a reckoning. Picking sides goes well beyond school allegiances. Do you prefer America's Sweethearts or its dirty debutantes? Milk and cookies or Louisiana hot sauce? Now, to be fair, I didn't see this article before the game. And the first time I heard the article was when watching Kim Mulkey's press conference after the victory. And this is Kim Mulkey sounding off on not even the Washington Post story, but this is the LA Times story. Listen up.
You can criticize coaches all you want. That's our business. You can come at us and say you're the worst coach in America. I hate you. I hate everything about you. We expect that. It comes with the territory. But the one thing I'm not going to let you do, I'm not going to let you attack young people. And there were some things in this commentary, guys, that you should be offended by as women. It was so sexist, and they don't even know it. It was good versus evil in that game today. Evil? Called us dirty debutantes? Take your phone out right now and Google dirty debutantes and tell me what it says. Dirty debutantes? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to let you talk about 18 to 21-year-old kids in that tone. It was even sexist for this reporter to say UCLA was milk and cookies. Now, you women sit there and you keep your mouth shut if you want. I'm in the last third of my career, but I'm not going to let sexism continue. And if you don't think that's sexism, then you're in denial. How dare people attack kids like that?
Now, full disclosure, I had no clue what a debutante was before I heard Kim Mulkey say the word. Now, Samter did. Stu, I don't want to say break a tie here. Did you have any clue what a debutante was?
No idea.
So the definition on dictionary.com, an upper-class young woman making her first appearance in fashionable society. When you call someone a dirty debutante, though, in the article, I'm surprised that was even published. Like how an editor allows that out there. So good on Kim Mulkey for calling out the journalists that authored that about her team and tried to classify her team that way. But it's wild to me, and it's just ironic, when the same people on social media who were slamming Kim Mulkey, right, for her over-the-top reaction to the Washington Post story, were then, like less than 24 hours later, once the article came out and right, you had the post-game situation after UCLA and she brought attention to this, it was the same people that were like, you know what, she actually has a point on this one. So I think actually this was a good weekend for Kim Mulkey in terms of like the national discourse about her, where it looked like, wow, over-the-top reaction to what happened with one story, but then calling out another journalist actually saved her from getting continued to be dragged on social media. Either way, I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but I wanted to share a few opinions and a few thoughts on that. But we get back to what's going on the court tonight, Iowa LSU. That's the matchup that everyone wanted to see. Now we get to see it in the Elite Eight with a spot on the Final Four up for grabs. Who do you think wins tonight between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark? 65.9% say Iowa gets revenge in the rematch. 34.1% says LSU. I'm actually on LSU tonight. I think LSU is the more well-rounded team, and I think they are the better team at this time of the year, and I think they're going to find a way to win the game, but you could always chime in. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We got the poll question up there at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. Okay, we'll take a break. We go from the women's tournament to the men's tournament. We know some of the Final Four teams on the women's side. On the men's side, we know all of our Final Four teams, where you do have UConn going up against Alabama, and you do have Purdue up against NC State. We'll react to the men's Final Four next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we open up the show talking about the Women's Elite Eight tonight, the big matchup, the creme de la creme matchup between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. We'll go more into the women's tournament coming up later on in the show, but let's react to the men's tournament, where now we know our Final Four will be in Phoenix, Arizona, starting on Wednesday. We'll be doing a show from one of our CBS Sports Radio affiliates on Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we'll be live on Radio Row from the site of the Final Four. And when you look at these four teams, let's start with Purdue. I was elated the most about Purdue over the weekend because when you have a team that gets embarrassed like that, and I know now, right, we look at college athletes as professionals because of name, image, and likeness, but that humiliation that they suffered a year ago was just so tough. You're number one seed. and you lose to a 16 seed in Fairleigh Dickinson, who said they were going to kick your ass before the game, and we all kind of rolled our eyes when Tobin Anderson said that to his team in the locker room, but it was nothing to lie about. Like, he wasn't kidding around. He was being dead serious. And we know that Purdue lost in the first round last year as the number 1 seed. And we've seen coaches before have narratives built up about them choking in these spots, not getting out of the first weekend. And the only way that you could shut everybody up is to get redemption, get revenge, and win. And we saw Virginia, right? Virginia was the first 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed all those years ago up against UMBC. In the following season, you did see that Virginia team get to the championship game and win it all. For Purdue, I'm not saying they have to win it all in order to get that redemption and to get that revenge. I think a lot of people now look at Purdue and say, okay, Matt Painter and Zach Edey, they avenged what occurred from a year ago. But if they end up losing to NC State, I do think you'll see some of that humiliation pop back up. Now, it's not the same humiliation as what they did suffer a year ago, but let's just say Purdue gets to the national championship game and they lose to UConn. I can't get on the radio on that Tuesday coming off the national championship game and slam Purdue for losing to UConn. That is the matchup I want to see, because UConn is by far and away the most dominant team in the country. And then Zach Edey, who some people just said, oh, he's just tall. Like, if that's your analysis, and I don't want to sound like Matt Painter, but if that's your analysis when you watch Zach Edey, oh, he's only good because he's tall, well, then, give me a break. Because I saw Taco Fall play when he was in college, and he can't hold Zach Edey's jockstrap, all right? And Zach Edey the last 2 years has been, and he'll be the National Player of the Year once again, so he's going to be back-to-back National Player of the Year award winner. But to get to the Final Four, it is definitely a tip of the cap, and now you got to get to a championship game. But to see that moment right away when the horn sounded and the buzzer went off, that embrace between Matt Painter and Zach Edey, it was neat. It was nice. It was special. It was heartwarming, because last year everyone was the first one and they did it and they failed. They messed up. They lost. They didn't, I guess, take an opponent in Fairleigh Dickinson seriously, and they got exposed. They got embarrassed. But to see a team go from the joke of the tournament a year ago to now being a group that people could get behind and root for in a redemption story, it once again just shows in America, we always love a comeback story. And a comeback story always does reign supreme. We also like a Cinderella story. And the team Purdue is going to be going up against is NC State. NC State is a Cinderella. They may not be your traditional Cinderella because they're not Loyola Chicago. They're not George Mason, right? Yeah, the schools that have gone on these crazy runs throughout the years. They play in a big boy conference. They play in the ACC. But to see where that NC State team was heading into the tournament, heading into the ACC tournament, where their coach was on the hot seat. Their coach, Kevin Keats, was getting talked about being let go at the end of the season. And it's always funny because in one of these runs, there's always a what the heck type of moment. And in that ACC tournament where they hit that bank three to extend the game, that's just one of their moments where it's like, okay, that run doesn't even happen if that shot doesn't go in. But to win 5 games in 5 days and just get to the ACC championship game and win the ACC championship game, that was a feather in the cap for NC State just on its own, right? It kicked in a brand new 2-year extension for their coach and took him off the hot seat. But to then have that run be catapulted into a Final Four berth, I don't care how optimistic you were about NC State after the ACC tournament, no one could have seen this coming. And even if you said it, did you actually believe it? But DJ Burns, we all love a star. We all love a big star with the gregarious personality. To see the way early on in this tournament, the fans really love him and embrace him. And remember, there's a lot of neutral fans in these games. But then to see it culminate with the trip to the Final Four, it's really stunning. And I know some people say, oh, they're not a Cinderella. I don't get how you don't say they're a Cinderella. Like, who would have thought an 11 seed NC State, even after winning the ACC, would be get into a Sweet 16, would be getting to an Elite Eight, and now be playing in the Final Four. I didn't see that coming. I don't care how optimistic you were after the ACC tournament. No one thought they were actually legitimately going to a Final Four. And they showed up. They took advantage. They seized the moment yesterday. Where when you look at Duke, who was up, I think it was 27-21 at halftime, they didn't show up in the second half. And Burns was just hitting shot after shot from all over the place on the court. Now we get to the other matchup. Bama's another team. You know, I'm not calling Bama Cinderella, obviously. But Alabama is a team that is really equipped to win in the year of 2024, where you have a bunch of different transfer guys from the last 2 years, even after losing Brandon Miller from a year ago. There's been teams at Alabama with higher expectations, but Bama towards the end of the year, heck, I'll raise my hand, I picked them to lose in the first round because they were trending in the wrong direction. They were losing games at the end of the year. They were banged up, and they caught lightning in a bottle at the right time, and now they're in the Final Four. And I thought Alabama was going to get a victory up against UNC. And, you know, that game was awesome, right down to the wire to just put them in a spot to get to the Elite Eight. But then you watch the game from the other night. You know, I just give them a tremendous amount of credit up against Clemson, where, you know, I know that's not the sexiest Elite Eight game, but Alabama was expected to win, and they get the job done. And we know they could score a lot of points. Like you look at them, 109, 72, 89, 89. Those are the victorious scores for Alabama on their side in this tournament. But their defense is really improved. Sears was great in the game the other night. He could not miss. And you see this Bama team, Pringle gave him who's going to join us later in the show, he gave him a great effort down the stretch in that second half, dealing even with that heel injury. But that's a team that's fought through the adversity, fought through some late season losses and some late season injuries, and now they're 40 minutes away from going to a championship game. Now, I don't think they're going to go to the championship game. We know they could score a lot, but until someone gives UConn a fight, I don't think UConn's going to lose. And, you know, it's tough to get amazed by a team that you just expect to roll through everyone. And UConn is starting to give me a feel of the Golden State Warriors when they had Kevin Durant. And what I mean by that is when a team is just always blowing someone out and you always know they're going to win, it's tough to get amazed. It's tough to be in awe. But there were things that Steph and Clay and Kevin Durant and Draymond Green did together, you know, in that group of four, where your jaw would hit the floor and it's like, okay, you just throw your hands up in the air because they always still found a way to make it impressive or make it unique. UConn going on a 30-0 run towards the end of the first half, bleeding over into the second half. We've seen dominant teams, and Illinois, right, they're not a bad team. They won the Big Ten. Illinois was a top 5 team in this tournament when you got down to 16. But to see them go on a 30-0 run against UConn, it was just another cherry on top of the sundae where you just throw your hands up in the air and you just go, how the heck do you beat this team? And people could look at the line for this Alabama-UConn game, see it 11.5, 12.5. They could say it's disrespectful. Even if you love this Bama team, this Bama team's really good. I personally could not put my own money down, plussing money with the opponent being UConn or plussing the spread. I just can't do it. And we'll see if anyone's going to be able to get within 10 points of them. But so far in this tournament, it hasn't even been close. 91-52, 75-58, 82-52, and then 77-52. And it does feel like UConn, and this is the scary part, I don't even think UConn's played their best game yet. And that is extremely scary. And their big man, Donovan Clingan, he's going to join us tomorrow on the show right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So I want to see Purdue go up against UConn. Most dominant player in the country, up against the most dominant team in the country. But really, these Final Four teams, I'm not saying we don't have storylines, but there have been bigger storylines in the past, and there have been more storylines that have resonated more, and that's why we started the show today, where we're leading with the women's tournament. Because you got Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese tonight. Then the second game, you got Juju going up against Paige Buckets. You already had Dawn Staley's squad, who's undefeated, advance to the Final Four. This women's tournament, you know, I watch more of the men's tournament, but there is more of a reason to watch the women's tournament this year than the men's tournament because the women's tournament has stars, has big personalities, and they're really driving you to the game. And I'm not going to lie and say I watch a ton of women's basketball throughout the year, but because of knowing who their stars are and the way the stars have marketed the game through their fun trash talking on the court, it has made me draw more of an interest in the women's tournament in terms of now we're down to 8-4, remaining teams left, whatever the number is, than really the men's. I know we grow up, we always watch the men's tournament. It's the men's. But this women's tournament has been absolutely sensational. And I had to actually do taxes on Saturday. And I refused to go to my meeting with the financial advisor, the guy that does the taxes, until after the LSU game ended. That's how good the LSU-UCLA game was. And then I missed some of the Iowa game because it came on afterwards. And when I got home, I was visiting my parents this weekend. We were celebrating my grandfather's 97th birthday. So I went home this weekend on Long Island. My mom, who I don't think she's ever watched women's college basketball, she was like, this Caitlin Clark girl is awesome. And she was watching it. So it's just neat to see how many different people are talking about the women's tournament because of just the coverage that has been driven to it and the stars that are involved in it and how many people are talking about it. It does have interest from many different people that usually would only watch the men's tournament. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll do a little onside, offside next. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. Former Colts safety Vontae Davis has died at the age of 35. He was a first-round pick of the Dolphins in 2009, spent most of his career in Indianapolis. He played one game for the Bills in 2018 before famously announcing his retirement at halftime. The women's Final Four will be set after tonight. The evening begins with the rematch everyone has been waiting for, LSU and Iowa. Angel Reese led the Tigers to the title a year ago at the expense of the Hawkeyes and their star Caitlin Clark. College basketball's all-time leading scorer at 30 in the meeting, but struggled to get there on 9 of 22 shooting. The second part of the doubleheader features UConn and USC. The Huskies looking for their 23rd trip to the Final Four and their 28th appearance in the Elite Eight. Lindsey Gottlieb has led a resurgence for USC, which is in this spot for the first time in 30 years.
We haven't been here, and we're creating our own story, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of pressure. I think we've been able to combine that joy and joy for the game and gratitude for still be playing with an urgency and a toughness that you need to win in March.
The Braves lead the White Sox 3-0 top 5. Top 6 at Wrigley. No score, Cubs and Rockies. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio, onside, offside time. Samter, what do we got cooking today, my friend?
We got a lot cooking on all sides of the sporting landscape here. We'll start in the NFL as we usually do, an onside, offside. We've been following reports that say that Chiefs breakout receiver Rashee Rice appears to have left the scene of a major accident that he and his friends caused after they were racing down the highway, one in a Lamborghini, one in a Corvette. Now, at least 4 other cars were caught up in the wreck, and while there weren't any serious injuries, witness statements say Rice and his friends grabbed guns from the cars before leaving the scene. And some of the pictures and video are incredible as you just see them getting out of the car in the middle of the highway and just walking down the side of the road.
So I chuckled when you said appears to have left the scene. I'm like, I've seen the video. I know we have to do that from a legal standpoint, and everything is alleged right now. But that was a pretty damaging video, let me just say.
It's definitely damaging, but until he's found guilty in a court of law, it's all alleged and it's all
speculative.
Speculative, yes. Now, onside, offside. If all of this ends up being true, if our eyes and ears and the reports end up being true, the Chiefs should release Rice.
Because what? Allegedly
for
drag racing and then leaving the scene of an accident?
Correct. And if it's also true that there were guns in the car and all these other things, it's just such a bad look. I mean,
it's a bad look, but you don't have to release him. Like, if that's all that happened, and that's a lot, I'm not trying to undermine what happened, that you're drag racing, allegedly, you're leaving the scene of an accident, and you were taking guns from the car. Like, a lot worse things could have happened. I don't know if anyone was under the influence. From everything I've read, it doesn't seem as if there's any casualties in this situation. But if this is all that just happened, we've seen a lot worse happen in the NFL that hasn't made a team release a player. So you ask me, if true, I'm not condoning what happened, the Chiefs should release Rice? No, I'm not going to say they should release him with what we know right now. So I'll go offside.
Offside.
So we start with my new team, and we go next to my former team, the Jets, who are sitting at 10th in the draft.
Yeah, you're still a Jet fan.
With many believing they'll either go receiver, even though they got Mike Williams, O-line, even though they got Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, or tight end Brock Bowers to help out with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
However, a new ESPN report says the Jets would prefer to trade down to pick up extra draft assets since they don't have a second-round pick. Onside, offside, the Jets should trade down from 10.
Offside. I think the Jets should be all in. I would actually argue they should trade up to go get a player that could potentially help them immediately. I don't think they should trade back. At 10, I think you take the best player available if you stay there to go help your team immediately this year. I would be against trading back if I was a fan, which I'm not, of the JTS Jets. So the Jets should trade down from 10. I will go offside.
Offside. Now, Joel Embiid hasn't played since January 30th, and the Sixers have gone 11-18 without him, dropping to 8th in the East. Now, a new report from Woj today says that Embiid is returning very soon and is expected to play this week. Onside, offside, the Sixers can make the NBA Finals this year with a healthy Embiid.
And it's not a lock that they'll be in the play-in tournament, but that stinks if the Sixers get up to a 7th or an 8th seed when the actual postseason does start, and you're a team like the Celtics or the Bucks. Then you should still beat the Sixers, but it stinks when you'd have to go up against a team like the Sixers with Joel Embiid, where before the injury, they were not an 8th seed or a 7th seed or what a traditional 7th or 8th seed would be. But to win a championship or just to get to the finals, I'm going to say offside that the Sixers can make the NBA Finals with a healthy Embiid. I like Maxey, but Embiid in the big moments, his conditioning does not hold up. He looks a little sluggish as the series do go on. I don't know how fully healthy he is and how much more pain he has to tolerate. And let's be real, the Sixers have been chipping away the last few years, and they failed to even get out of the second round. So to now, with Embiid coming back from injury, for me to expect them to get to a conference final, and then once they get to a conference final, win 4 more games to get to the NBA Finals, yeah, I don't see how that's going to happen, so I'm going offside.
Offside.
Now, Russell Westbrook doesn't get along with heckling fans, confronting fans in Utah, Denver, Minnesota, and now in Charlotte. During yesterday's win against the Hornets, Westbrook was seen jawing with a fan during halftime saying, quote, "Don't disrespect my family's name. Do you understand me?" Dropping a couple curses in there.
Did you see what the fan was wearing?
Yeah, he had like a little balloon on his head or something.
It was like it looked like it wasn't a kid, but it looked like it was a kid at a 4-year-old's birthday party with a balloon animal hat on.
Yes, I'm assuming he called him West Brick, which we know
obviously
gets under
that's what he
Westbrook's
called him.
Skin, yes. Onside, offside. The NBA should discipline Westbrook for his repeated and numerous confrontations with fans.
So if all it was this fan just making fun of his name and saying Westbrook, it just shows you how soft the NBA really is. And I've said this for years. The overrated commissioner, Spineless Silver, allows the players to practically disrespect the fans and spit in the fans' faces. Heckling goes on. Now, there's a line you can't cross. And if it appears the way that it did, that this fan didn't cross the line, it's a joke that Russell Westbrook is doing this. And he's even wasting his time with this. But with all that being said, the NBA should discipline Westbrook for his numerous confrontations with fans. I want to say yes. I want to say on sides. But I know the question is should. I have no expectation that Adam Silver will ever do this. And what are they going to do? Just fine him? And what is that actually going to do? So we're so past the point of the NBA getting any control back of their sport. Well, I'll just say offside, and I'll let this crap show continue.
Offside.
Now, Mookie Betts is off to an insane start for the Dodgers with 11 hits in 22 at-bats, including 4 homers, 2 doubles, 9 runs scored, and an insane 1.75 OPS. The former AL MVP has finished top 5 in MVP voting 3 times in the 4 seasons there in the NL with the Dodgers, and many have called his trade from the Red Sox one of the worst deals ever.
Yeah,
onside, offside for Boston, not for
obviously. The
onside,
Dodgers, they're jumping up and down over that one.
Mookie Betts is more important to the Dodgers this year than Shohei Ohtani.
This year, yes. Because Mookie Betts, when you take away the pitching ability from Ohtani, which he'll not be pitching this year because of the Tommy John, he is a better all-around fielder and hitter than Shohei Ohtani. So when you take away the throwing ability of Ohtani, yes, this year Betts is the better player than Shohei. So yes, Betts is more important to the Dodgers this year than Shohei Ohtani on sides.
Now, we've been talking a lot about DJ Burns and NC State, leading them to the Final Four.
Send it in, big fella!
But despite this run, he's still not expected to be a first-round pick and maybe not even drafted at all. Now, director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, said he's received text messages from multiple NFL GMs and scouts saying that there would absolutely be interest in the 6'9", 275-pounder if he wanted to play football.
Does anyone actually believe this guy's 275?
I mean, he's a big boy.
Trust me, he's more than 275.
I would imagine. Now, onside, offside, Burns would have more success pursuing an NFL career than an NBA one.
I'm going to say onside just because he would have to lose a lot of weight for him to be able to make it through and be successful in the NBA. I could see him being a very athletic defensive or offensive lineman in the NFL. So I would rather see him go pursue an NFL career than an NBA one. Onsides.
All right, last one. You can't make this stuff up. After 4 women's regional games were played in Portland over the weekend.
Yeah, this is a joke.
The NCAA announced that the three-point line on one end of the court was too short. Just on one end, not on both ends. Now, despite the revelation before the game, NC State and Texas still played on the incorrect court last night, though the court has been fixed for tonight's UConn-USC game. Ironically, this is very odd to me, the three-point percentage and scoring was actually up on the standard side than it was on the side that was shorter, which makes no sense to me if the three-point line was closer in. Yeah, it must be.
Mental kind of part of it.
It must
mental
be,
reps.
but it's so crazy to me that a shorter line doesn't make it easier to score. So onside, offside, teams that lost during this weekend have a legit gripe since the court was incorrect.
They have a legitimate gripe because it's BS, but they don't have a gripe if you're going to use that as an excuse as to why you lost. That's the way that I think you meant to word the question. So I will say offside on that, but it is a joke that there were games played, no one realized it, and then someone finally realized it before the last game that was played there. So that's absolutely wild. So teams that lost have a legit gripe since the court was incorrect. I will go offside.
Offside.
It's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question, and it's brought to you by our friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. You could thank O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Duke's dud in the second half prevents them from punching its ticket to the Final Four. Has the luster of the Duke Blue Devils fallen off? We'll answer that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And away we go, hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. I'll get to Duke in just a second with their dud of a performance in the second half yesterday up against NC State. NC State advances to the Final Four. Well, they'll go up against Purdue. On the other side, you have UConn and Alabama. But today is April 1st, so it is April Fool's Day. And let me tell you, this may be my least favorite day of the year. And I'm all for practical jokes. I'm all for pranks. But you really realize how unfunny some people are with how many dumb, mock, fake sports trades there are. Like, they're not even creative. Like the one practical joke that I thought was really hilarious in sports was when the Phillies once told the pitcher he got traded to Japan and he actually bought it. Like that was funny. And you got the whole team in on it. But all these social media accounts today on X and on Instagram, TikTok, they're all like, oh, we got breaking news. Oh, this play, Devontae Smith of the Eagles just got traded. And it's just not even true. So social media today, there's a lot of days it's insufferable, but today it's really insufferable. I'll give credit. One actual April Fool's prank in the sports world, I guess you could say this, actually made me chuckle today. And I thought it was a good one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, Dustin Sweetelson. He used to work at Sirius. He now works for VSiN. And he's like a producer, co-host of one of the VSiN shows. I knew him a little bit briefly when I worked at Sirius. So he puts out today a photo of what was thought to be his hand with the lady's hand with an engagement ring on it. And he tweeted out, I made an off-season acquisition. So this thing is up there. It's getting a ton of views. People are like, congratulations, so happy for you, blah, 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 blah. And I was just seeing this during the break. So after it being up for 6 or 7 hours and it not being real, he quote tweets it and he writes, I'm overwhelmed by the response to this post. I can't believe any of you believed I could have thumbs this ugly. Check the calendar. Like, that's pretty good. Because you look at the male hand that's grabbing the female's hand here, it is an ugly looking thumb. It is a grotesque hand that this man, whoever he got the picture, does have. So I thought that was the one good April Fool's joke that I did happen to see today. Like, I have a friend, every April Fool's Day, she texts me. And it's the same lame joke like every year. And I'm like, don't you people have anything better to do with your lives? And if you're going to do a prank, at least have it be funny. I don't know if we'll do the Zach Gelb Show PSA this week because we're going to be in Arizona for the Final Four. And when we're usually on the road, we don't do that. We don't have enough time for segments like that. But that's my PSA for the week. That's my PSA for April Fool's Day. If you are going to make a joke, at least have the joke be funny. Santa, for some reason, and maybe I'm just dead wrong here, I felt like back in your day, you were a good practical jokester and you were a big prankster. Is that an incorrect read that I have of one Michael Santa?
I enjoyed practical jokes and I enjoyed being a prankster, but I was not very good at it.
No, you weren't? So you were unfunny is what you're saying?
It's not that I was necessarily unfunny. My ideas always kind of fell flat. People saw right through it because they could tell that I'm a jokester and I'm a prankster.
So you have that reputation.
Yeah, so going into it, like even not on April Fools, everyone takes everything I say with a grain of salt anyway.
Because
and then on April Fools, they immediately assume it's a joke. So I guess the better April Fools would be for me to tell something serious and real, and people wouldn't believe it, and then that would be the April Fools, that they're not believing this real thing all day.
Now, it wasn't an April Fool's, but the best prank I've ever played on someone. So I attended sleepaway camp for years, and I was working for the camp at that time. I was on like the quote-unquote senior staff, and there was a newer member of the senior staff who I actually ended up becoming good friends with and still am friends with this person to this day. But when you walk into a place and you're the new guy, you got to be careful how you walk into a place. Like, if you come into that place hot, like the BMOC, big man on campus, naturally, people are just going to be irritated by you. And it's not a good first impression. So this person, who ended up becoming a very good friend, he rubbed some people the wrong way because he came in, right, I'm in charge, I'm the BMOC. So his first off day, and he had, like, his own cabin. It was, like, a pretty good spot. Like, on his first off day, everyone's like, oh, we got to prank this guy. We got to humble him a little bit. So I came up with the idea of water cupping his entire apartment at the sleepaway camp. So every square footage of the floor, by his bed, in his shoes, in the shower, in the bathroom where the toilet was, in between the cubbies, as you would say, which is where you store your clothes and everything. Everywhere this guy had to go when he walked back into his apartment, there was water. And there was cups filled with water. I think that was the best practical joke I was ever able to pull on someone. And when we saw this guy, because you come back from your off day, it's like 12:30 at night, 12 o'clock at night, you got to be signed back in by. We just heard him open the door and let out a scream. And it was just so worth it. And eventually you have to knock a few of the cups down, and then you'll clean them up the next day. But he was like tiptoeing, and you just kept on hearing someone scream, "Ah, bleep," because once one of the cups did go, about like 8 or 9 of them did fall right after that. So that was the best practical joke that I've ever did play on somebody. But anyway, you got something to say about that, Samson?
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. So my favorite practical joke, the one that I always love to tell, I won't tell.
Is this the popcorn in the movie theater again?
No. I've never pulled that. I've only seen it in the movies, about the movies. Someone who I know, I won't release who, was in class, and the teacher walked into class. I guess it was like on the second, third floor of the school, and she walks in, and there's this big commotion. And everyone's screaming and yelling. She's like, "What's going on?"
Okay.
And she walks in, and there at the window is this guy. And he's screaming, "Hold on. I got you. I got you. Don't let go."
This is morbid.
And she's freaking out. She runs to the window. And just as she gets to the window, the guy falls back, holding 2 shoes in his hand, screaming, "No!"
This is in high school?
Yes. The teacher runs to the window, looks out the
Holy
window, and
smokes.
sees someone laying 3 floors below like they just fell out of the window. And he just stood up and said, "April Fools."
That's like...
Scared the absolute crap out of
Honestly,
her. She lost her mind.
That person should be thrown in jail. That's like a morbid
That's
prank.
amazing. Absolutely hilarious.
And were you in high school at the time?
I was not in high school at the time. The person was a little bit older than I was. I just heard the story years later. I ended up having that teacher.
Did you ask her about it?
Oh, yes. And she says to this day she still has nightmares about it.
Yeah, that's really scary. That would not fly in today's world whatsoever.
That's very funny.
Anyway, let's get to Duke. You know, it's kind of crazy that it's only been 2 years of Jon Scheyer as the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. It seems like it's been more than that, which I don't know if that's a good thing for Duke. And don't get me wrong, Jon Scheyer has the potential to be a really good head coach. It's not like they've ever had a bad season with him on the job. But when you take over a brand like that, and you are used to, as a fan, of seeing your team be the best and be a national championship, multiple-time national championship winning program, even though you have to be understanding and lenient, and you got to be patient with the new guy coming in. I know Jon Scheyer was one of their own, and he was on Coach K's staff and all that, but his first time being a head coach, there has to be an adjustment period. But ultimately, the fans are going to say, not that you have to go win 4 or 5 championships, but you eventually have to restore a national championship to the university and bring one to the university. And you look at Duke, there were some ups and downs last year, and then people were believing in them as they did go into the tournament, and they didn't make it out of the first weekend where they lost in the second round. This year, not a lot of people were talking about Duke heading into the tournament. And then when Duke was sitting there in the second weekend of the tourney, and albeit they had Vermont and James Madison in the first round, they're showing in the Sweet 16. A lot of people praise Duke for beating Houston, but you go back to that game, and you had the injury to the star Houston player, and still Duke wasn't pulling away. I looked at that performance where, yes, everyone's praising Duke for beating Houston, but I never thought it was going to translate into a championship run. Because in a way, even when you won and you get praised for something, I thought there were warts, I thought there were flaws with this Duke team. But yesterday, Duke is going up against NC State. And at halftime, Duke is up 27-21. That's not an insurmountable lead, let's be clear. But when you're up 27-21 and you have no heart, you have no fight, and you don't show up in the second half, it's a dud. It's a big-time dud and a big-time letdown by the Duke Blue Devils. And I don't think a lot of people today are talking about the fall of Duke in that game because we all love a big fella. DJ Burns Jr. has captured all of our hearts, and he's won them over. And NC State's been this great story. So just naturally, when you look at this game, we are right away more attracted to the NC State story. And that's not always the time when you look at a game that the winner is the one that we only solely talk about. But the NC State run is such a Cinderella type of run. Coach was about to get fired. They were like 17-14, something like that. They go in the ACC tournament. They win 5 games in 5 days. They win the ACC tournament. And now here we are. We're like, holy crap. They've taken this all the way to a Final Four run. Well, they'll go up against Purdue on Saturday evening. But once you take a breath, and once we fully allow the NC State story to marinate, the future of Duke to me is fascinating. And it's not just in college basketball, but it's also potentially what we could see happening in college football. Because we had Kalen DeBoer, friend to show. You guys know me. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be a stud. But Duke has had 2 okay years, 2 good years. But the standard at Duke is to win a national championship. And year 1, they had a letdown in the tourney under Jon Scheyer. And in year 2, yes, they got to an Elite 8, but they had an extremely flat performance in the second half of that Elite 8 game where a spot to the Final Four was certainly in reach and definitely attainable. So the future of Duke to me, and I know Duke's bringing in a massive recruiting class, but I'm just wondering how we're going to talk about Duke 5 years from now. And I wonder if the luster and the appeal of Duke is going to fall off. Like, we all know Duke is always going to be a great basketball school. But losing Coach K is such a big adjustment in so many ways. And as a neutral fan, right, as just a fan of college hoops, I've never really hated Duke. But I know, like, when I used to work with Ryan Hickey, he was like, screw Coach K. I can't stand Coach K. This retirement tour is ridiculous. And I'm like, no, it's not. This is one of the greatest coaches of all time. If he wants to go out a certain way, let him go out that way. So I never found, for me, individually, Duke to be polarizing. Now, I know Duke is polarizing from Leitner to Krzyzewski and everything else, right, that has come with Duke. But a lot of times Duke's polarizing because they've won. And the last 2 years, like even when Duke lost the other night, like if this was 3 years ago, people would be celebrating. People would be doing the worm in the streets. Like, it'd be crazy how much elation a team losing would bring. But now taking Coach K out of the picture, until Duke wins a championship again, I know that if you ask a UNC fan if you hate Duke, they'll always say yes. And there's some teams in the ACC that will always hate Duke. But I don't think the national hatred of Duke is there right now. And we'll see if Jon Scheyer could ultimately lead this program being back to a national championship contender. And if he does, and if he wins a championship, then I'm sure that natural hatred and jealousy will pop back up. But I think we're at a very interesting time in college sports right now, Samter, where we've seen so many legendary coaches that were the face of their sport walk away. And you still have 2 incredibly large brands in Alabama and in Duke. And Sheyer's been good the last 2 years, but he hasn't been great. And look, like when you talk about Jon Scheyer, he's only been the coach for 2 years. And it seems a lot longer than that because we're people that expect certain things. And when things happen one way for such a long time and through decades and decades and decades, you just think it's never going to end. But when careers end like Saban and Coach K, that next guy that's up is in an incredibly tough situation where a guy like Scheyer has been successful, but we know that when you lose a game to NC State and you lose and don't show up in the second half at the spot in the Final Four to the line, now people are going to question if you are the right guy for the job.
No, that's definitely, I mean, you know, we talked with Kalen DeBoer about it. Following a legend is never an easy thing to do. And you have to have immediate success because when you come in there, you're typically taking over a roster that legend recruited. So there's high expectations. But especially in college basketball, it's a little bit different.
Because of the one and dones?
Because of the one and dones. And you see some of the programs that are starting to have success. It's these schools that have guys stay around for 2, 3, 4 years, like Houston and UConn. Like these are the programs that are winning. And it's almost, in a sense, it almost hurts. We heard this from Luke Hancock, I think, last week. It almost hurts a team or program when they recruit the best players. Like, what are they supposed to do? Not recruit the best players?
Yeah.
But when you recruit the best players, most likely the majority of them are going to be one and done and off to the NBA. So it's like it's a catch-22. It almost behooves a program to try to recruit guys in that, like, 15 to 30, 15 to 40 range, because maybe they'll stay for 2 or 3 years, and then your program has a better chance of winning.
You know what it really is?
It's really interesting.
I still think you hit recruiting hard, and you try to still bring in the one-and-dones, but then you got to ace the transfer portal. Like, for example, Alabama lost their best player in Brandon Miller. And look at the amount of people they've been able to bring in from the transfer portal. And at times it got rocky this year because it's tough to build chemistry, but now they have them firing on all cylinders. That, like, I think a lot of times people say, you gotta find a way to bring in guys that are more 3 or 4 year players. I don't even think that's true. I just think now when you bring in veterans in the transfer portal, you just have to find a way to get that immediate success from those players in the transfer portal right away. And if you don't do that, then the team falls and disappoints, and you see players that are younger get exposed on a big stage, and when no one shows up, that's when we start to go to, okay, well then maybe they need to start recruiting older immediately and getting under the watch. I just think in this new era of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, like, we all try to say what is the right way, but I don't think there is a right way, really. Like, you look at Alabama, there are a lot of transfers on that team. Purdue, Zach Edey has been there forever. UConn is better this year, and they lost some players from last year. So it's very tough, but here's the difference. Duke and Kentucky, even, like, let's say if they got rid of Coach Cal, those are legendary programs, and I don't think they'll ever fade. But then yet again, it's like you look at a Louisville, you look at an Indiana, and how much both of those programs, especially Indiana, has just fallen off the map. So these next 5 years, all I'm saying is I wonder how we're talking about Duke and Alabama 5 years from now. And you got to win one championship. And I think DeBoer will win a championship at Alabama. And quite frankly, I think Scheyer will win a championship as well at Duke. But the year one expectation for DeBoer, you got to at least make the playoff. And you look at that schedule, it could be better than just making the playoff. But for Jon Scheyer, it's been 2 years. It's been fine. He's been good. But, fans are still going to be saying, okay, is he the guy to win the championship? Like, look at Hubert Davis at UNC. Got to the championship the first year, missed the tournament. And then this year, they exceeded expectations. But then come the tournament, they didn't meet what the new expectations were. So we're living in a world of unknown, and it's always tough to replace a legend. But it's not like Davis nor Jon Scheyer have fallen on their face since replacing Roy Williams and then also Mike Krzyzewski. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Here we go again. LeBron James talking about his future. How much longer will LBJ be the king of the NBA?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Ian Eagle's going to join us coming up in about 35 minutes from now. Also joining us later on in the show at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific, Nick Pringle from the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team just took over the Elite Eight down the stretch. He's going to jump on board with us after their great victory against Clemson. And now Alabama is off to the Final Four, and in Phoenix, Arizona, on Saturday, they will be going up against the UConn Huskies. Hey, by the way, Samter, there's a pizza place in Phoenix that everyone talks about. What is it? A Pizza Bianco?
Pizzeria Bianco.
Is it that good since you used to live in Phoenix?
When you live in Arizona for 7 years, it's the best pizza you've ever had in your entire life. When you've been back, so I've been there like 6 or 7 times. Mm-hmm. And I was there mostly when I lived in Arizona, and I loved it. But then when I came back to New York and had like real New York pizza, Bleecker Street and Joe's, and then I went back and had Pizzeria Bianco, I'm like, it's good, but there's like a dozen places as good or better in New York. It's very good. It's really good for Arizona. It's through the roof for Arizona pizza.
But compared to pizza that we're used to, like I think New Haven pizza is the best pizza. I love New York pizza as well. Here's always a controversial take. I think Long Island pizza is better than New York City pizza. There's some
don't say Chicago is better than any of those.
Well, no, that's like a sandwich pretty much with that deep dish pizza. That's like dessert pizza.
It is. It really is. It's something else. It's a stew. It's a quiche.
No. It's still very good, though. Like, if you want to
it's
tell me that
enjoyable, but it's
Chicago
not
has
pizza.
some of the best pizza, okay, I'm not really going to crush you for that. But I never thought going to Phoenix, Arizona, that I need to get pizza. But everyone tells me I have to go to this place, Pizza Bianco. Now, there's 2 different locations. One had reservations, but the main traditional joint, it's just walk up only. Now, we're going to be there for 3 days, and our hours there are 12 to 3 p.m. Pacific. So is there like, if we went there at like 3:30 right after the show, because we're broadcasting, it's like 5 minutes, you'd think the wait's going to be that bad at 3:30 p.m. Eastern?
No, I think if we go like at 3:30, it'll be past the lunch rush.
And before the dinner rush.
So I think we should be okay. There might still be a little bit of a wait, but here's the thing. The weather's
20 minutes?
Yeah, maybe. But like
We'll go sunbathing outside the pizza place.
Yeah,
It'd be
worst
great.
case scenario, we
Bring
put
a
our
towel.
names in, we grab a drink, we hang out.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. It's not the worst thing in the world if we have to wait 20, 30 minutes or whatever. We'll be fine. I don't think it's been more than a 30-minute wait at that time of the day.
Okay.
If you go there for lunch, you go there for dinner, you'll be waiting for hours.
So let's do that.
Especially with the Final Four there.
Well, I won't really eat much for breakfast that day. You know, maybe have a protein bar. And we'll go have a nice big lunch at Pizza Bianco coming up on either Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you want to do it. Maybe Wednesday's the best day.
Well,
we're
Wednesday
traveling.
will be a little bit tougher because Wednesday we're going to be broadcasting from a different location that's a little bit farther away.
Okay.
Actually, the other location is probably closer to the other Pizzeria Bianco.
but I
if
don't
you're
wanna
going
go
to
to the second one.
go to the original.
I want to go to the real thing. I want to
Yeah.
go to the traditional
Yeah.
joint,
We
the
could-
regular place.
We could try it on Wednesday, but we probably won't get there till closer to 4.
So you're saying more Thursday.
Well,
and
we'll see.
Santer needs to get situated in the hotel. He needs to unpack all of his stuff. Yeah, okay, I'll do
Well,
Thursday with
both
you.
of us. I think Thursday's probably better, but we'll see. Listen, we'll go back to the hotel. We'll drop all of our stuff off because we're going right from the airport right to the studio to do our Wednesday show.
Hopefully we get there. A lot of bad
If we
weather.
get there in time with all the weather and everything. But, we come back. If we have time to drop our stuff off, walk over there, and there's not a huge wait, then I'll go on Wednesday. I don't mind.
Now you have to find another place too, because if we're gonna get pizza, I need like a traditional spot.
No, there's a few really good. I mean, it's Arizona.
Yeah.
Great Mexican spots.
That's what I'm saying.
Really good Mexican spots. I know a few, and I'll show you around to a few different places.
Okay, we got a good tour guide here, Michael Santer. He knows
Well,
the city
the
like the
sad
back
thing
of
is
his hand.
3 of my favorite restaurants
Shut down.
have shut down. Now, there's a place that I tried for the first time the last time I was there for the Super Bowl that is an absolute go-to that I'm going to have to go back to. It's like a wine and pizza place, but it's like not just pizza. They have everything. It was so good. It was like artisan kind of stuff.
Okay.
Really, really cool place.
Santer is a big foodie. I usually trust Santer's opinion on food. Some other things I won't trust his opinion on, but when it comes to food, I don't think I've ever had a bad meal with Michael Santer.
I'm just upset the Italian Grotto is not there for you. That's my favorite all-time Italian place in the world.
A lot of Italian food in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, it's so
really?
good. The guys from the Bronx, the guys from New York. It was awesome. So good, the food.
Alrighty, let's hear from LeBron James. This was after last night. LeBron James, there's always some drama with the king. He's the drama king. Let's hear from LeBron about how much longer he will play.
Not very long. I'm on the other side, obviously at the hill, so I'm not going to play another 21 years. That's for damn sure, but not very long. I don't know when that door will close as far as when I retire, but I don't have much time left.
I'll say this about LeBron James. Now, I don't think just because he's talking about retirement now and saying that he doesn't have that much time left in the league, that retirement is going to occur this offseason. There's like the hot take of the day. I don't think LeBron James is avoiding a year of fanfare and a tour to just walk off into the sunset and walk away from the game with no fanfare nor buzz. Like, that would be the complete opposite in the way that LeBron James has kind of operated the last 20 years. But LeBron is approaching a big number, and that's coming your way in December. And that's the big 4-0 where he turns 40. I kind of feel that next season's going to be LeBron James's next season, last season in the NBA. I think LeBron will retire after next season. Not this season, at the end of this season, but next season. And the reason I say that is it doesn't look like Bronny is going to be going to the NBA this offseason in the draft. If that changes, then it could really alter what I'm about to say. But I think this dream that LeBron had about playing with his son in the NBA was his dream, but it wasn't his son's dream. So if Bronny comes back for another year at USC, and I know USC just lost their coach because Andy Enfeld ended up becoming the new head coach of SMU, and he walked away voluntarily. I don't know if there's more to that behind the scenes. Then let's say Bronny plays one more year at USC then wants to go to the NBA. It's kind of like put up as a front. Oh, LeBron is retiring because his son maybe doesn't want to play on the same basketball court with him or be on the same team with him because he wants to do his own thing. And then you could look at it, LeBron gets out at a nice number playing in the NBA until the age of 40. So I don't think he's lying there when he says the end is near. I don't think that's going to be this offseason, but I kind of feel like he has one more year left in him. Stu, where are you at right now with LeBron James? I know you're kind of tired of everything with King James, you being the Laker fan on this show. But do you feel as if, like right now, LeBron James, I ask you, how many more seasons in the NBA? What would your answer be?
After this season, I say he plays 2 more.
2 more?
I think he does play 2 more, yes.
Are those both with the Lakers? Because he could get out of that contract this year.
I don't. I still think he goes somewhere else.
You think he goes somewhere this offseason, or does he sign back for 1 year with the Lakers and then go somewhere after that to wrap it up?
I think he plays 1 more with the Lakers after this, and then he goes somewhere else for his final year.
Back to Cleveland?
Maybe. Or maybe something to do with Bronny or something. We'll see.
Yeah, I just, with how much LeBron has already backtracked on the Bronny thing, this is just a guess. I really do believe that was LeBron's vision and not his kid's vision. And he practically almost said that a year ago. He's like, that's my dream. I don't know if that's Bronny's dream. So it's always weird on the speculation front on this, but I'll go 1 more year for LeBron James in the NBA. Samter?
I think that he'll have 1 more year after this year, with or without Bronny. But here's a question I have, and I know the LeBron MJ debate.
Please don't do this.
It's not LeBron MJ necessarily.
Okay.
But like, yes, he won a title in the bubble for the Lakers.
Yeah.
COVID year. Not taking it away, he won a title.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, first round lost, missed the playoffs, swept in the conference finals.
Oh, just getting to the conference finals last year was
sure, but they were also they were the 7th seed, 8th seed,
yeah,
and they just made a nice run. They weren't expected to go, but they got hot at the right time. That's all that matters. And this year again, play-in tournament. There's been kind of this fizzle towards the end of his career, right? We've seen a lot of superstars leave at the end.
Mm-hmm.
MJ, John Elway left on a high note. Peyton Manning left on a high note.
Yeah.
Even Brady, to an extent, left on a high note. Super Bowl, conference championship. Then they lost in the divisional.
Oh, wild card.
Wild card. It was the wild card. That's right.
Yeah, they were 8-9.
So the
lost
question
to
is,
Dallas. First time Dallas ever beat Brady.
Does it change anything with LeBron?
No.
That he has this fizzle, that our last memories of LeBron.
Because when he's on the court, he's playing great. The problem is he just hasn't been healthy. We haven't really ever seen LeBron suffer big injuries where he's missed a lot of time until he's got to LA. We get accustomed because we've seen so many athletes play now into their 40s that everyone's just going to be able to do it. The body isn't designed to play that many years in a sport that requires you to be on your feet for that long. Like, his individual numbers are still great. The teams haven't been great. But I don't think anyone is going to look back at LeBron James 15 years from now and say, yeah, the last 2-3 years, the team wasn't that great with the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think anyone will hold that against him unless you are a Jordan stan, right? And you just hate LeBron James to hate LeBron James.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying it knocks him out of like the top 2 or 3 conversation.
No, he's the second greatest player ever.
So, but that's part of the conversation, right? Has his ability to surpass MJ gone away at this point because of, after he won that bubble title, everyone was like, okay, he's won.
Going down a dangerous road here. I hate going down this road.
It's not necessarily the MJ conversation.
It opens up a can of worms to just idiots. That's what it does. Because it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. If you're on the Jordan side of the fence, you treat it as if LeBron James is some bum. If you're on the LeBron side of the fence, you treat it as if MJ is some bum. And you could say the greatest words into the microphone. Stu could say his greatest words into the microphone. I could say the greatest words that I've ever said into a microphone. And we'll have people call in at 855-212-4CBS, and we'll be like, oh, but LeBron had to go to a bunch of different teams. Or MJ this, MJ's not as physical as LeBron. He's not as big as LeBron. It's my least favorite conversation in sports. Least favorite. I'm not entertaining that conversation today on this show. Will not do it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back with a news brief. Ian Eagle still to come at the top of the hour. Nick Pringle from Alabama will join us as well at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. Update time first, though. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, former Colts corner Vontae Davis has died at the age of 35. The cause is unknown. Davis, a first-round pick of the Dolphins in 2009 and played most of his career in Indianapolis and was a Pro Bowler twice. His last game was with the Bills in 2018 when he retired at halftime. The men's Final Four is set. The women's bracket still to be decided, and there is a compelling rematch tonight. The one everyone was waiting for is Iowa meets LSU, which was last year's title game. And this year, it'll be for the right to advance to Cleveland. The big story from that meeting a year ago was Angel Reese's gesture toward Caitlin Clark in the latter stages of the game. The two players said there's no animosity between them. Clark says she has nothing but respect for Reese.
Me and Angel have always been great competitors. Obviously, she played in the Big Ten for a while to begin her career, and that's what makes women's basketball so fun is, you have great competition, and that's what we've had all year long. But I think Angel would say the same, is like, it's not just us in women's basketball. That's not the only competitive thing about where our game is at, and that's what makes it so good.
UConn faces USC in the second part of the doubleheader. At Wrigley this afternoon, the Cubs lead the Rockies 5-0, bottom of the eighth. Rain delay on the south side of town with the Braves in front of the White Sox 6-0, and it's the Pirates 2, Nationals 0, bottom 2. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
The Golden State Warriors are on a 4-game winning streak, with those 4 wins all occurring on the road in Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, and then last night up against San Antonio in San Antonio. They have won back-to-back games, though, since the Draymond Green ejection. So that ejection motivated them, and now the Warriors are on a hot streak. But it is crazy, the difference between the Warriors at home compared to the road this season, because they are usually a great home team. Like last year, at home, they were 33-8, and on the road, they were 11-30. This season, when you look at the splits from home against the road, they're 18-19 this year at home. They are 22-15 away from their home arena. Let's hear Steph Curry on the success on the road this year, this courtesy of NBC Sports Bay Area.
We might need to stay in a hotel in San Francisco and act like it's a road game, like they do in football. Stay in the hotel the night before. I don't know what it is about the road Warriors. We've kept our season alive, with our road performance. So it means a lot, and we're going to have what it's looking like. We're going to have to do that to get into the playoffs. So something to rely on.
Uh-oh. Are the road Warriors about to get hot? Are they about to go make a crazy run in the Western Conference? I don't think so still. I think they'll make the playoffs, or actually, let me revise that statement. I think they'll make the play-in tournament. We'll see if they're going to be able to win to get in to the actual playoffs, which would be the 8th seeds. But right now they have a little separation. Not much, but they have been able to separate themselves a little bit from the Rockets than where it was at the end of last week. Golden State 40-34. And the Rockets' win streak did come to a close. They're now 38-36. So we'll see how the rest of the season does play on out. Here is Zach Edey, Purdue, from embarrassment a year ago, losing to a 16 seed in Fairleigh Dickinson, to the other day, punching its ticket to the Final Four. Here is Zach Edey with Evan Washburn after the game.
What was your mentality in this game?
They thought they knew us, man. They thought they knew what we had in our hearts. I promise you they didn't. We're winners. That's what we do.
I love that. By the way, Evan Washburn did an incredible job in that interview. And here's why. you watch that interview and you know you're on television, you're not allowed to curse. Usually when someone curses, like the host or the producers get like all flustered. Evan Washburn, as cool as a cucumber, just asked his next question, kind of smiled and said, okay, we'll deal with what happens from it. It's not his responsibility. And you just keep it moving. And he kept it cool and calm. And I think Edie realized, okay, I got to reel it in a little bit. But Edie, after the game, man, said some interesting stuff on the court after the game. And then an old video surfaced of him at a party. And let's just say Zach Edey he scores both on and then off the court as well. Let's go to Danny Hurley, the new face of college basketball. His team looking to go back-to-back. They'll play Alabama on Saturday evening to try to get to the national championship game for the second straight year in a row. Here is Dan Hurley pulling a little extra motivation from tweets.
Sean Harrington, who was a good player, was a McDonald's All-American, one of the staff members, wanted to add a little more fuel to my fire, a little, something, UConn has not had to play against this physical a team, and they'd never seen someone like Terrence Shannon, something along those lines. And, statements like that are just asinine. You're going against beasts and monsters every night in the Big East, and the Big East prepared us for teams like Illinois.
I give credit to Maggie Gray. She pointed this out. Danny Hurley has a Jim Harbaugh type of vibe to him, where even when you don't think there would be a lot of things you should get motivated by, there's a way that you find the way to get motivated by. And don't get me wrong, like going into that game against Illinois, Terrence Shannon was the best player going into that game. It didn't mean Illinois was going to win this game. But I do like how UConn has turned it out to be, not that they're an underdog, but people are doubting them. And that's what makes a great coach. When you have a maniac like that, and I say that in a positive way, who's able to find little things, inane things, and make them to his team like they're a big deal, where they're questioning your physicality and they're questioning your toughness. And you saw it was personal for UConn as they did go on a 30-0 run from the end of the first half, bleeding over into the start of the second half, which was just absolutely incredible. Let's go to DJ Burns, the Cinderella darling of the tournament. I know people are going to say, he originally started at Tennessee, though, before going to Winthrop and now finding his way at NC State. But if NC State wasn't in the ACC, if they weren't in one of these big conferences, everyone would be calling them a Cinderella because they weren't supposed to make the tournament. In the ACC tournament, they win 5 games in 5 days. They get their coach an extension where he was on the verge of getting fired, and now they're somehow, some way in the Final Four. And DJ Burns, the big fella, has been sensational. Here was his interview after the game with CBS's Tracy Wilson.
There's just been a total switch in our commitment. Nobody's being late to things. Nobody's, being a problem on the court. Everybody's come together. I don't know what it is, but everybody's handling on and off the court well.
I wonder how much of that was player speak and then how much of that was reality. Because once again, this team was 17-14. And did players just start showing up time because, we're in the ACC tournament? Or, now we're in the NCAA tournament and they haven't lost since getting into that ACC tournament? I don't know. But I did think that sounded like it was directed towards one person. But I can't quite put my finger on who that person was, because then at the end he was like, I don't know, actually. So, very bizarre. Let's go to Caitlin Clark. She's getting set to square up against Angel Reese once again. You have Iowa and LSU later this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Here is Caitlin Clark on facing her old pal Angel Reese once again.
Me and Angel have always been great competitors. Obviously, she played in the Big Ten for a while to begin her career, and that's what makes women's basketball so fun is, you have great competition, and that's what we've had all year long. But I think Angel would say the same, is it's not just us in women's basketball. That's not the only competitive thing about where our game is at, and that's what makes it so good.
And let's hear from Angel Reese on her relationship with Caitlin Clark.
Me and Caitlin Clark don't hate each other. I want everybody to understand that it's just a super competitive game, and I would just wish people realize that once I get between those lines, it's no friends. I have plenty of friends on the court that I talk to outside of the game, but when I get between those lines, we're not friends, we're not buddies. I'm gonna talk trash to you. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get in your head the whole entire game. But after the game, we can kick it. I don't think people really realize that, and That's fine. I'll take the villain role. I'll take the hit for it. But I know we're going women's basketball, and if this is the way we're going to do it, then this is the way we're going to do it. You like it or you don't.
We've seen great rivalries before in sports. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady. It's just weird how this one's being covered, where you have athletes that get on the court, they both talk trash, they're both intense on the court, but like people actually think there's legit animosity and hatred between these two ladies, and Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I don't think that's the case. Like, I had no big deal. I thought it was no big deal last year when Angel Reese was doing the "you can't see me" thing to Caitlin Clark. I thought it was fun. And I think both of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese realize what they've done for women's basketball, where this women's tournament, I don't know what the ratings will be. I don't know what the overall views will be, but it seems like, and I watch more of the men's tournament, but it seems like there's been more buzz to the women's tournament than the men's tournament because of the stars that you know in the women's game. From not only Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but to Juju Watkins at USC, Paige Buckets, and you have South Carolina with Dawn Staley as their head coach trying to go on an undefeated run. So, I don't know, Santer, the coverage of this, it seems like they're trying to build this up as it's, Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese and they hate each other. They hate each other on the basketball court. There's a big difference with athletes hating each other on the court because you want to win and you're a competitor than compared to hating someone off the court.
It just reminds me, I don't know if you remember this, back in the 2008 Olympics, Kobe was teammates with Pau on the Lakers.
Yeah.
They were good friends and they were teammates. First quarter of the game, Kobe runs through a screen and levels Pau. Just knocked him to the floor. He even told the guys before the game, I'm going to go after my guy. He didn't help him up. He gave him a stare down.
Competition.
It's one of those things where it's like, I hate you right now. And that's kind of what we want to see. We want to see athletes between the lines. I don't want to say hate, but I want that competitive fire to come out.
Oh, I'll say it.
All friendships, all fair play and sportsmanship, sure, but all other kinds of just like friendship and credulity, gone out of the window. You do whatever it takes to win.
It's my biggest problem with the NBA. I don't sense any rivalries in the NBA anymore. But in the NFL, there's still rivalries. In hockey, there's still rivalries. In college football, there's still rivalries. And in women's basketball, there's obviously rivalries. And it kind of stinks that this is the Elite Eight, but you take this matchup whenever you get it. And here we are. By the way, on that, here's Kim Mulkey on LSU, Iowa. She doesn't really love that it's an Elite Eight game.
We talk about growing the game. Didn't that national championship game have the highest ratings ever in women's basketball? So you're probably going to anticipate this one will too, but it needs to be at the Final Four.
Once again, I take this matchup when you get it. I did think it was peculiar that they didn't have this potential road happen in the Final Four, and it's to go to the Final Four. I guess they wanted a greater chance of actually seeing this matchup, so maybe that was the committee's thinking. But this is by far and away the biggest game of the tournament. And that's no disrespect to what happens afterwards, because there's so many other storylines that are still going to be fun to watch. Like the game after this one tonight should be really fun between UConn and USC. And you still have the South Carolina story too, but nothing's going to top this game tonight for the sport. Ian Eagle will join us next. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
That's what I'm talking about. Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. The Final Four is set coming up Saturday evening. You will have UConn going up against Alabama, and then the marvelous story of NC State going up against Zach Edey and Purdue. The man that will be on the call on CBS for the Final Four is Ian Eagle, and Bird is kind enough to join us right now. Ian, appreciate the time as always. How you been, my friend?
Hey, what is up, Z, man? Great to talk to you.
But what does this mean to you? I know that you've, March Madness, you've always done it. No.
To be honest with you, very, much a religious experience for me.
You know what? I think it's the biggest thing you got going on this week, if I'm being honest with you.
100%. I'm on the Zach Gelb Show. It's a Monday. It's the start of the week. It's not going to get any better for me this week.
Well, we've seen some legends recently retire, right? Coach K had to get replaced by Jon Scheyer. Nick Saban gets replaced by Kalen DeBoer once Nick Saban retires. Nance walks away from calling college basketball. I know he still does football and the Masters, but now Ian Eagle slides in as the guy for the Final Four. Since that week is here after all the buildup and all the speculation, just what are you feeling going into this week?
Yeah, I mean, I would first say that I'm succeeding Jim. I'm certainly not replacing him. The man did the job for 33 years and was the voice of this event for so long. So many memories are in your brain with Jim's voice on them. So for me, it's just doing what I've been doing. Been calling this event for 26 years, so it's not like I'm coming out of left field. Yeah. This is all new. This is all fresh. It's one more weekend. It's obviously the biggest weekend in college basketball. It's the biggest stage in college basketball. But as far as the approach, the preparation, all of that, the execution, it's all going to be very much the same as I always try to do the job. And now the games are the thing. And if the games are good, then that's what people are going to remember, and that's the hope, that the games are competitive and memorable and fun. And that's the other part, too. I've tried to approach it that way. You know, college hoops is supposed to be fun, and this event is to me.
I think we lost Ian there. We'll see if we can get Ian back up as we have a little connection issue with the great Ian Eagle, who will continue to join us here on CBS Sports Radio, coming back in a matter of moments. It's good that the connection issue happens now with Ian Eagle rather than coming up on Saturday evening. So we'll try to lock Bird back in as we get set to preview these two games, and then we'll find out who the championship is going to be on Monday night with NC State in their incredible run going up against Purdue, and that matchup between DJ Burns and Zach Edey. And then you have coming up with UConn and Alabama, and can anyone keep it within 10 points of the UConn Huskies going up against the Alabama Crimson Tide, where Alabama's showing they're more than just a football school. Right? Nick Saban is now out of town, and then, look, the basketball team is in the Final Four. Ian Eagle is back with us. So, Ian, let me just ask you this, because one of the teams you're going to call this weekend is NC State. A big debate has been, is NC State a Cinderella story? How do you view their story and what they've been able to accomplish the last few weeks?
You know, you talk to them, Zach, and they don't see themselves as Cinderella, so I respect that philosophy from them. But they have a lot of Cinderella attributes. This team went 4-10 at the end of the regular season. They lost 4 straight to wrap up their season before hitting the ACC tournament. They are under 500 in their conference. They are the first team to go to the Final Four under 500 in their conference since Virginia in 1984. That just doesn't happen. At least you play 500 ball in your conference before you start thinking about making a run in the NCAA tournament. So all the things that you would look for in a Cinderella are there, but they're from the ACC. They've won national championships before. They are a major program. That's why it's hard to put them in that category and give them that tag, and then it sticks no matter what. They don't view it that way.
Take us a little bit behind the scenes. This men's tournament going in, a lot of people said there wasn't a lot of stars compared to the women's tournament. An unexpected star has emerged in DJ Burns as everyone's rooting for him. Take me through your interactions with him over the weekend.
He's jovial. He brings a lot of smile, and he exudes personality because it's real. And I think this team has found something based on the way that they play. They are having legitimate fun in this tournament. And there's not always a cause and effect, as we know. There can be a seriousness to this event and the pressure and the angst. And I know they aren't necessarily saying this, but there is a general feeling around the program that everything now is gravy. They've done everything far surpassing what anyone expected. So if this team were to keep on winning and write this story of being Destiny's darling, you can see it. You can start visualizing it. 1983, you're a young man, Z. I was around in 1983. I vividly remember NC State and how that gathered momentum. Now, they were banged up that year. They had finally gotten whole, and everything came together at the right time. And for anyone that is too young to remember 1983, just go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Watch some of that game against Houston. Watch the ending of the game. You want to talk about a miracle finish. That might have been the greatest ending in college basketball history, and then the indelible image of Jim Valvano running around just trying to find somebody to hug in celebration. There are genuine feelings and connections to this program this year, considering the fact that Kevin Keats was probably getting fired. It triggered a 2-year extension in his contract. All of them were dismissed. They were forgotten about, and here they are in the Final Four.
Talking Iron Eagle right now. Duke in the second half, they had that 27-21 lead. And I don't want to take away anything from NC State because they were remarkable yesterday, especially the big fella in DJ Burns. Mm-hmm. But was Duke just not ready? They get tight in the moment, or it just happens that some teams come out from halftime, even with the trip to the Final Four on the line, and they were just flat?
Yeah, and I think familiarity actually hurt them in this particular instance. The fact that NC State was not intimidated by the idea of playing Duke or feeling as if the world was against them in some way. If anything, it seemed to go the other way. Whatever the swing vote was inside the arena in Dallas seemed to favor NC State as they were starting to find their rhythm.
I think we lost Ian again, so having trouble connected with Iron Eagle, some phone connection issues, not the end of the world. Hopefully we can get him back up for a few more minutes. If not, we will continue to muscle through on this Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio as you have this great story of NC State and just really incredible what they've been able to do. I think they are Cinderella. I get it. When you're in the ACC, it's tough to claim that you are a Cinderella team, but that's where we are with this team now, and they're going to be in a Final Four game coming up on Saturday evening where they're going up against Purdue, and it's really the two biggest stars of the tournament from a recognizable standpoint, and Zach Edey is a back-to-back National Player of the Year, and then the sensational play of DJ Burns. So let's try to connect with Iron Eagles back with us one more time. And Bird, let's just advance to the NC State Purdue game that's coming your way, and you're going to be on the call for it on Saturday. I think the biggest thing to watch is going to be how the fouls are going to be able to be called, and if the referees have a quick whistle, if they're going to let these guys play for the game that you have on Saturday.
Zach, I took a 2-day trip to Bolivia, and we got very bad service here. I have no idea why this is happening. Yeah, you're right. Obviously, everybody's focused on Edey and Burns and a heavyweight battle between those two. Edey's been a dominant force. You saw his reaction with Evan Washburn at the end of the game against Tennessee. He is in complete serious mode. He's all business right now, and I feel as if he is on a mission, a personal mission. But you compare that and the dynamic now of DJ Burns and how he is comporting himself and how he's carrying himself and how NC State is carrying itself. It's really interesting. I do think there was a release of some sort from Purdue to get to the Final Four. After 2 years ago, a game that Jim Spinarco and I worked against St. Peter's, they got knocked out in the Sweet 16. Last year, FDU in the first round. So all of that builds. It builds around your program. It's talked about. You hear about it. You see it on social media. I don't know if you felt it, but I did in watching some of the reaction last night. It just felt like they needed this, the program needed it, and Zach Edey needed it individually.
And I wonder, because we started the show off with that today, it's like it feels like they have survived the demons from a year ago, but I still feel as if they need to get to the championship game, because I'd be curious what the reaction would be if they did lose to NC State coming up on Saturday night. Like if they lose to UConn on Monday, I don't think they get slammed for it, but losing to NC State, even with their great run, I wonder how many people would do a 180 on Purdue.
Yeah, I see your point, and I could see how it would be portrayed that way. I think no matter what, the fact that Matt Painter got to the Final Four, that Zach Edey got to the Final Four, there is something to be said for that, for handling themselves, for navigating their way through this tournament. In the end, playing at a high level, they didn't soft shoe their way through it. But once you're there, you want more. You want it all. Purdue has a chance to win the whole thing. I know UConn has looked dominant. They've looked like a juggernaut. They look unbeatable right now. But if you're Purdue, that's not what you're focused in on. You've got a matchup against NC State. You have a chance to end their magical run and a chance to prolong your season and maybe write yourselves into history. Zach Edey is going to go down as one of the best college basketball players of all time, just strictly from a resume standpoint. He's going to win National Player of the Year back-to-back years. He's putting up monster numbers, and his team is in the Final Four. There is validation when your team has that kind of success as well.
For you, what's the biggest storyline in Alabama and UConn?
Biggest storyline is whether or not Alabama can hang. Honestly, because I had UConn in Brooklyn the first 2 rounds. They obviously plowed through the competition with Stetson and Northwestern, and then continuing with San Diego State. And that run, bridging the end of the first half into the second half, was one to behold. You just don't see 30-0 runs. Maybe in a 1-16 matchup where a team is just so physically imposing compared to the other team. But to do it against an Illinois squad that has a bunch of dudes on it, to change the whole complexion of the game, and to remind everybody that they're the defending champions. And, Zach, I don't know how you feel about it. I think this year's team is actually better. It doesn't guarantee
100%.
the championship. They're a better basketball team this year than the one that won the title last year.
And you know what's crazy? I don't even think they played that great in this tournament. They're still beating every team by 20 points. Like against Northwestern, they shot the ball horribly. And they still blew out Northwestern. It was crazy to see. So, last thing I'll ask you, Ian Eagle, before we let you run. I have a viral moment idea for you at the Final Four. Would you at least be taking some requests on this? Just wondering.
I'm not Casey Kasem, but sure, why not? We'll take some requests.
So, DJ Horn to DJ Burns. I think what you need to work in is a little Lil Wayne line reference of, go DJ, because that's my DJ. Go DJ, because that's my DJ. I think if you drop a Lil Wayne reference in this week, it will be very popular online.
You realize that Grant Hill did that in the Sweet 16.
Did he really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Man. I thought I was rocking and rolling after sending you a little Rihanna suggestion yesterday that you ended up using. I thought I was revolutionary here. Grant Hill already beat me to the punch. Are you kidding me?
Come on, we got Grant Hill, Bill Raftery, Tracy Wilson. We've got this thing covered. I feel very confident that we've got it covered.
Man, so now you'd just be plagiarizing if you ended up using
that
line.
I'm not a plagiarizer.
Oh man, my week just got ruined. I thought I had this great idea. I was doing my best thinking in the shower earlier today. We're gonna get Ian Eagle to go viral at the Final Four. It's gonna be spectacular. Yeah. Now I'm just out of ideas. This is just terrible.
And thank you for leaving me with that visual at the end of our phone call.
Yes. You know what? Now I think you will intentionally have your phone line drop on this conversation. The great Ian Eagle. Ian, have a great call coming up on all 3 of the games over the 2 on Saturday and the 1 coming up on Monday. Thank you.
All right, brother. Zach, always great to talk with you, man. I'll make my way back from vacation and fix my phone lines ASAP.
You got it. Thanks so much. That SOB Grant Hill. Man, I've always respected him. Always respected him. I can't believe he used that. I haven't seen that call anywhere on social media. By the way, my singing is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. The way that I thought I was going to be able to sing that lyric of Go DJ sounded a lot better in my head until I actually said it on the radio.
Yeah, that sounded bad. Like
tone deaf.
Yeah,
it was cringe. I heard the cat screaming in the background.
When you're singing the Brown song, all for it.
Here we go, Brownies.
Yeah, that guttural football. But what you were just trying to pull with Lil Wayne, that might be a retirement for that one.
Yeah, I showed my whiteness there. Is what Sam Teresa trying to say.
I was trying to say it. I didn't want to say it.
I can't believe Grant Hill said that in the Sweet 16. Man, I guess they use a lot of DJ puns. A lot of DJ puns.
I mean, you're on the air for about 2 hours for each game. You got to do a lot of pregame, postgame. There's a lot of DJ stuff you got to get into.
Yeah, but that is a true story. I did a text Ian yesterday during the game, and I said you got to play a little Rihanna. Do a little Rihanna.
Just for the record, while we were on the phone before the interview started, I said I just want to make sure that you know that Zach had nothing to do with me saying that line. I had that in the mind, ready to go.
All I'm going to say, when we look at the text messages and we go back to my exchange with the great Ian Eagle during the game, too. Ian Eagle, when I sent him the song and I said, you got to drop a Hey, Mr. DJ, he did send me a pound with the music emoji. And then a little over an hour and 10 minutes later, he used it, and I texted him back, that was amazing. And he goes, you bet. So there we go. Man, Grant Hill. I don't like Grant Hill anymore. just ruined my moment that I thought I was going to have with Iron Eagle.
You know how you're going to have to resolve this.
I have to come up with another pun that's already been
Well,
used?
no, if you have one of two options, either A, fight Grant Hill out in
At the
Arizona.
Final Four? Oh,
yeah.
that wouldn't work well for me.
Or just call the next Final Four. Just tell Ian that you want to sit in for him, and you can do the Final Four. It'd be great.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm just, you could say whatever you want there. I'm heartbroken there. I felt like I just got the big moment, the big opportunity, and I just messed it all up. Anyway, we'll take a time out here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll see how I embarrass myself when we return. Nick Pringle of the Alabama basketball team. He's playing for a spot in the national championship game on Saturday night. He'll join us. Roll Tide coming up after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alabama off to its first ever Final Four. They took care of Clemson over the weekend, and a big reason why they're off to the Final Four is because of their big man, Nick Pringle, who was phenomenal in the game, 16 points and 11 rebounds. And he's kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Nick, first and foremost, congratulations. I would ask you how you're doing, but I think things are going pretty well right now for you.
Yeah, things are going, pretty well. I'm very, happy with the progress we made throughout the season. It's been really big time. We ask God, ask, for the prayers, for the support, through everybody throughout the season. We had a lot of ups and downs, adversity. But we still grinded it through, and that's what it's all about. March is the most important, month in college basketball, and that's what we showed up for. So. We want to continue it through the rest of April and, make the most of it.
When you first hear that Alabama is going to the Final Four and you've had a few days for it to marinate and really process, just what comes to mind when you realize this dream is a reality and come Saturday evening, you guys are going to have that ball tipped up and you guys are going to try to go play for a spot in the national championship game?
Yeah, man. All you can think about is, all the legends that came through here, all the greats that came through here, that tried to get to this point. It's so surreal that, we were the team to, ultimately, reach the Final Four. We don't want to stop here. We got a lot of people, behind us. We got a lot of people, wanting us to have this ultimate success for each other. So it's great, just to be in this predicament, Alabama, historically being, a football school, it's traditionally, it's just growing, like, throughout every sport on the, in the school campus. So it's really great just to be a part of something, this awesome. Having a locker room full of guys like that, it's really unbelievable. It's a great feeling. The coaching staff that we have, we're surrounded by so many smart guys that know what they're doing, that set the right game plans for the time being. It's really a dream come true.
Yeah, I saw a photo of you and Nate Oates having an embrace after the game in the locker room. I've been a fan of Nate Oates when he was the coach of Buffalo. He joins us on this show. Just how do you kind of describe your relationship with Coach and what he's done for your career?
Man, it's really good, man. I'm not gonna lie. It may not seem like that to the media, but it's really great. He really, builds me up to be a man. On and off the court. He challenged me to be a leader all the time, and that's I think all of those stepping stones and the adversity we went through early in the season prepared me for this moment. So, now that things got hard, on the court. I'm able to, bring the team together while controlling myself. It's really, it's a lot of thanks to him. He challenged me a lot. It just prepared me for a lot of these great moments that we're going to face here soon.
Nick Pringle here with us from Alabama. They're off to the Final Four. You talked about the adversity, right? Injuries, and then also this team towards the end of the season was not winning a lot of games, but you guys were able to flick the switch when it mattered the most, and you guys were backed into a corner, and all you've done ever since is won in this NCAA tournament. How did this team get things moving back in the right direction to secure a spot in the Final Four?
Honestly, just, carried a lot of things with a tent, So, after that Florida loss in the SEC tournament, we just kind of dropped that. We didn't even watch film on it. We just, dropped that, say 0-0-0-0 on the season. It's about who wanted more. March, like I said, March is, the most important, month in basketball. So, we wanted to just put our heads down, block out all the outside noise and lock in for each other and for ourselves. We carry, a word named Mudita, that's vicarious joy, for everybody amongst each other. And that's what we've been doing. It's been really, beneficial to the team. You see guys, building confidence within each other. And it's really been like big time for this team. Like confidence is something, a lot of the guys needed. And, for example, like seeing, Jaren Stevenson, airball like 3 threes and still have the night he had, like that's ultimate confidence. Like you can't take that from anyone. And, that's something that you try to, vocalize and build throughout the team to ultimately get everybody to play that full 40 minutes at their, highest level. So, I feel like we're close. And in these next 2 games, I feel like we'll really get there.
How about what you were able to show in that second half with the spot in the Final Four up for grabs? I know you're dealing with the heel injury. You're wearing the walking boot. But, man, I thought you were the most dominant player down the stretch in that game. Just what got into you in the final 10 minutes or so?
It's really, credit to, our athletic trainer for, getting me back to even be able to go out there and do that. But, ultimately to my teammates for, pushing me and motivating me, still sticking with me, knowing that I'm going through this pain. It's really all for them, and it's always been for them, never, no matter the circumstance or anything going on. I just, always wanted to go out on the court and do it for a brother. And I feel like that's what I've been doing lately. And, ultimately seeing the goals for everybody around me is similar to mine. So, just to reach that task with everyone else, it'll mean the world to me.
Where is your health at right now? How would you kind of describe how you're feeling, Nick Pringle?
You said my health?
Yeah.
Really, I just try to, bring the energy, whether it's on the court, off the court. Like I said, I wasn't gonna let anything hold me out this game. No matter how I felt. This is sometimes it's a once in a lifetime, moment. So, just being able to be out there with my teammates, give it all I got, no matter, how hurt I am, how I'm feeling or anything, being able to give my energy and have, guys on the bench to come off the bench and, contribute as well as if I was on the court as well. It's just amazing to have a team, a staff, placed together to do these, extraordinary things. It's awesome to see the oak tree and, see, his coaches, go off and be head coaches, be successful where they are. And, this everything around here, man, it's just very traditional. And it's something to love.
I know you guys are going to be confident, as you should. You're going up against such a tough team, the best team in the country in UConn. You tell me why you guys can not only hang with them, but why you guys could find a way to defeat UConn and go off to the national championship game.
I think, like I said, we have a great bond of coaches. Like our coaching staff is, man, it's unbelievable, man, what they've been able to do, just to put, things together for us to be able to stop teams, playing the way we play while just adjusting our defense a tad bit, just throwing different looks at guys, playing fast, not hanging our heads when guys score, getting right back in transition and hitting one back. It's just been, unbelievable about the confidence that they've been giving us, to go out there and perform the way we are, the shape we are in, how hard we're able to play. A lot of people be calling us frail, soft, and things like that. We don't let all of that, determine, what we give on the court, night in and night out. So, it's just been, unbelievable to even see that. And, with UConn coming up, our coaches are, they've been winning this. We've been winning this since last year, since we lost to them last year. Like, we wanted to see every team, that we took an L to and give them back to them, So it's been, a great, week. We've been watching film. We've been, locking in on what we need to do. We know what we got to do. I feel like we're going to handle that.
Well, Nick, first off, congratulations. Really do appreciate the time today. Your energy and seeing the way that you guys celebrated after the game was a whole lot of fun. Dancing with the elephant. You got the hard hat, too. You were really enjoying yourself, as you should be after that game.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I really lose myself in the game. Like, I didn't even, realize I won the hard hat. Jaren, the way Jaren played, the way Mark played, like, I didn't even know. I just, going out there and playing and giving my all. That's all that matters to me. No awards, nothing on the stat sheet, whatever, satisfy me. So, just going out there and doing the dirty work and doing what I got to do for my team to win, whether that's setting screens, getting the best shooter open, passing, anything, like whatever contributes to my team winning, I'm willing to do.
I know the hard hat is a tradition that Coach Oates gives out after every game. I saw a WWE championship belt. Was that just for that one, or has that been something going on all throughout the year? Because I saw you rocking the belt.
I think Rylan mentioned his experience being similar to Brock Lesnar being Undertaker in WrestleMania. So they, I think the football sent us, the belt, and they let us have a good time with it.
That's awesome. Well, hey, good luck. Congratulations so far. And thanks so much for giving us a few minutes today.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man.
You got it. There he is, Nick Pringle. Wow. Really energetic. Awesome appearance. Enjoy his time with us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And seeing the celebration after the game. I love that. That dude knows how to party, man. He went right over to the student section. He's dancing with the elephant for Alabama. That was fun. That was really good. And then, man, got the hard hat, is walking around with the WWE Championship belt. Now, who would have thought this Final Four, seriously? I feel like we say this each and every year. UConn, you could see it, obviously. They're the team to beat. Everyone expected them to get here. I remember that. Oh, UConn had a tough draw to start off the tournament. Remember all that nonsense that we were talking about with all the number one seeds? Purdue, I know that the last few years they have come up short in this tournament, but no one should be surprised that Purdue is here. Alabama and NC State, those are the two surprising schools. I really thought Alabama was going to lose in the first round of the tournament. I really did, because I did not like the way that team was playing at the end of the season. And when you back yourself into a corner and you have some adversity, you see how people respond. And the way that this team has responded has been marvelous. And then NC State, what else can we say about them? Like, seriously. 17-14. And I know, right, they've won it all before. Right? You had the great moment of Jimmy V. I know that they're in the ACC and all that stuff. And they don't feel like a traditional Cinderella, but they are a Cinderella. I get it. You're not George Mason. You're not Loyola Chicago. You go through all these schools that have won on these great runs throughout the year. Florida Gulf Coast and VCU and on and on and on. But if they played in like a conference that wasn't the ACC, that wasn't the Big Ten, that wasn't the SEC, everyone would absolutely be saying NC State's. They were 17-14 going into their conference tournament. Their coach is about to get fired. And now he's a 2-year extension because they won the ACC tournament. And it's amazing because I asked that to Kevin Keats when he joined us why they haven't lost their legs. And then when they got all this rest, you wondered from the end of the round of 32 into the Sweet 16 if they would lose some of that momentum, but they've never lost their momentum in this tournament. And you look at the 4 teams remaining, UConn is obviously the big bad beast. All right, they're the team that everyone's trying to slay. And they're the bully, and they're the great team. Alabama, it is amazing to see how so many transfers have been able to survive ups and downs this year. And even when this is not the best quote-unquote Alabama team, it's the team that's gone the farthest in program history. NC State, you think of DJ Burns. And then Purdue, it's the Painter-Edey relationship as well. So even though this has not been the greatest storyline tournament, we now enter the last 4 teams remaining with some pretty damn cool storylines. All righty, we'll wrap up the show. When we return, we'll come on back and we'll reset the big poll question of the day. Who do you got tonight? Is it Caitlin Clark of Iowa or is it Angel Reese out of LSU? Go Tigers! We'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Update time. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, former Pro Bowler Vontae Davis has died at the age of 35. He was a first-round pick of the Dolphins in 2009, spent most of his career with the Colts before abruptly retiring at halftime of his only game with the Bills in 2018. The NCAA men's tournament takes a few days off until the Final Four Saturday. The women's resumes tonight with a rematch that has been a year in the making in Albany. Iowa meets LSU for the right to advance to the Final Four, the defending champs, but a lot of criticism for their style in last year's title game. Star Angel Reese was at the center of it for her gesture toward Caitlin Clark. Both have said they are of great respect for each other. Reese said it's all business when she's on the court.
Once I get between those lines, it's no friends. I have plenty of friends on the court that I talk to outside of the game, but like when I get between those lines, like we're not friends, we're not buddies. I'm gonna talk trash to you. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get in your head.
UConn in the Elite Eight for the 28th time, looking to move on to the Final Four. Standing in the way of the Huskies is top-seeded USC. Tennessee is fired head coach Kelly Harper. Steve Lutz leaving Western Kentucky for Oklahoma State. Baseball today, the Braves lead the White Sox 9-0 in the ninth. Pirates in front of the Nationals 3-1 bottom six. And the Cubs beating the Rockies 5-0. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Dez on Twitter says to me, Zach, since you lost out on the Go DJ and my terrible singing to Grant Hill, you should have had Ian Eagle said Nick Pringle has a chip on his shoulder. Now, that's not bad if we're looking for some cheesy puns and some cheesy play on names and things like that.
How about once you pop, you can't stop? That's the tagline of Pringles.
Okay. That's pretty. Do you actually know the tagline of Pringles?
I mean, it's the tagline I've used.
Say that again?
Once you pop, you can't stop.
Oh, because you pop the can open?
Correct.
The Pringles does have a legendary can, I will say. That's a slogan for... Am I on an island here?
I apologize. Once you pop, the fun don't stop. But I've always just gone with once you pop, you can't stop.
Okay. So if Nick Pringle hits a big three in the game or a mid-range shot, there you go. Man, we should have brainstormed this before the show. Because the Go DJ moment was terrible singing on my part. But the fact that I gave Ian a good suggestion and he used it, and we'll play you that in just a second, and then I give him another suggestion, it was like, yeah, buddy, we did that 2 weeks ago. That was a bad moment for your boy.
I feel like I've heard a lot of the Pringles jokes with Byron Pringle, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
He actually had like a sponsorship deal with Pringles also. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's like, when you hear the Pringle thing, there's oftentimes a Pringles kind of connection to it. But it makes more sense in basketball than it would in football. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah, so I have a good enough relationship where, like, I don't like to text people when they're working, but I've texted Ian before when he's working, and he's always got back to me, like, immediately. So I don't feel bad texting him while he's working. So yesterday, I was sitting on my couch after celebrating my grandfather's 97th birthday, and I got back into the city. And I'm watching the Alabama, or excuse me, I'm watching the game that's going on yesterday, NC State and Duke. And I just text Ian, you got to drop a hey, Mr. DJ, and do a little like Rihanna kind of line when DJ burns, because they were doing so many DJ puns just over and over and over. So Ian didn't sing it, but he kept in the professional, traditional broadcasting form, and he was able to deliver us this show.
Here's Burns. Floats it up and in. Mr. DJ. Turn the music up for NC State.
So there we go. I think it was a good job by an Eagle. And then when I suggested a little Wayne reference of Go DJ because that's my DJ, Grant Hill already did that in the Sweet 16. So looking forward to that matchup. One more tweet that I'll read. People got to change their Twitter names, seriously. Trist RPTC4 on Twitter. Can we just go by people like Stu? What's your Twitter handle, if you don't mind me asking?
That would be Stuart Kovacs, CBS.
Yeah, Samter, your Twitter handle?
Big Mike, CBS.
And mine's Zach Gelb. Can we just do your names? Now, this guy's account is pretty funny. He said, I love Mini Coopers. You want to know a fun fact about your boy? When I was in high school, I did drive a Mini Cooper. Yeah.
How'd you fit?
Oh, see, now that's an obnoxious small person thing to a big person.
Because you're tall.
Mini Coopers are actually Very spacious.
Yeah, that wasn't a knock on your like weight. It was a knock on your
No,
size.
no,
I've seen
I wasn't
Shaq-
mad at you.
I've seen Shaq get into like giant like SUVs because that's all he can fit into. You're a big dude. Like you're a tall guy.
Yeah.
I can fit into a Mini Cooper, no problem.
The Mini Cooper's actually very spacious. Now, my football coach,
Ironic.
he hit the floor when I pulled into the parking lot, and he saw that I got out of a Mini Cooper. He could not believe that I was driving a Mini Cooper.
It's like the old thing, like clowns getting out of the car.
I was the only clown getting out of that car. But trust me, I was the only bozo the clown getting out of that car. But this person, I'm just going to call him Trist, says on Twitter, I have to ask, what is the bad April Fool's joke your friend says every year? A friend of mine from college, every year, she will text me on April Fool's, and I do not get up early. So she'll text me at like 7:30 a.m., help, I need help right now. And it's like, all right, the first year you do it, fine. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth year, like it's getting a little bit ridiculous. It's like Perry Ellis at Kansas. You have outstayed your welcome, all right? You have been there way too long. We don't need the same April Fool's joke each and every year. So I did mention that earlier, and someone wanted to know what was the joke. It's actually a pretty lame joke, if I may say so myself. All righty, it is time for Ask the Pros question. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Sam in Louisiana says, Zach, who do you have tonight between the LSU Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes? You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I actually believe LSU is going to win the game tonight. And here's why. And it may not be a great explanation. I do think LSU is the better team. And Flaugier was phenomenal in their last game. And I just think they have more better players than Iowa does. But it feels right. Wouldn't the storybook ending here be Caitlin Clark gets revenge, the biggest player in the sport gets revenge, and they win this game to put themselves back in the Final Four? That's what it feels like the Hollywood storybook ending would be, where Iowa gets revenge for losing to LSU in the championship game a year ago. All the taunting that did go on at the end of the game, which I loved with Angel Reese. But it does feel like most people expect, Iowa lost last year, so they'll win this year. They'll get their revenge, and we'll see Caitlin Clark continue to dance her way onto the Final Four. Whenever you expect something to happen. And I thought the gambling line was interesting on this too. LSU is a 1.5-point dog. And it does feel like this is a toss-up game. I will not be surprised by any outcome outside of a blowout, because I don't think either of these teams are blowing one another out. But I would be surprised by a blowout. But it seems like this is truly a 50-50 game. That this could go either way. That's not all the case with sports. Just look at UConn this year. No one's gone into a game up against UConn and say, yeah, I think this is a toss-up. There's a chance UConn can lose. No, they've been expected to blow out every team, and for the most part this season, they have blown out almost every team that they have faced. But when you get to this one and you see that Iowa is now, last time I checked, a 1.5 favorite, and I know people, because a lot of people take gambling really seriously, and I've already heard from people when I've said this on social media today. It seems like when you have a 50-50 game, and how many people are going to be betting on this game that have not watched much of Iowa or LSU, I think most people go into this and be like, oh, I'm getting Caitlin Clark as a 1.5-point favorite. Oh, I'm going to take Iowa. Iowa's going to win. Yes, this spread should not be more than what it is in one way or another. But when I've watched Iowa in the tournament outside of their last game, I don't think they've played great games. Like in the first round, they were not great. In the round of 32, they were not great. LSU got a little bit of a scare up against UCLA, but you always need a bad game in one of these runs that you overcome to end up winning the entire thing. I just believe LSU is the better team, and I do believe LSU is going to find a way to beat them in the tournament in back-to-back years. So our poll question is at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. And right now, 66.8% have Iowa winning this game tonight. I'm taking LSU at 33.2%. Real quickly, let me play you Jay Will. This was from February 17th on ESPN. Because I think we can all acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is one of the greatest college basketball players ever. She could be the most important women's college basketball player ever because of how many more eyeballs she has brought to the TV set. And let's be real, like other years, we're not talking about the women's NCAA tournament. But this year, whether it's Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, the undefeated story of the legendary Dawn Staley squad at South Carolina, Paige Buckets, and her triumphant return with UConn. And UConn is playing USC tonight right after the LSU game up against Iowa. But Jay Will, going back on February 17th, he said Caitlin Clark is like the most prolific scorer he's ever seen, but he can't call her great yet. And here's what Jay Williams did say.
I am unwilling, and maybe it's more the Kobe mentorship around me, to say that she is great yet. I think she is the most prolific scorer the game has ever seen. I hold great or the levels of immortality or the pantheon to when you win championships. That's just me. So Diana Taurasi, when you win 3 consecutive championships, 2-time National Player of the Year, it has to culminate with the chip. It has to. I mean, Breanna Stewart, if we're talking about GOAT legends of the game, she's won 4 chips. 4 chips, multiple National Players of the Year. So I'm not saying that she's not at a high level, but for it to go to the states of immortality, in my opinion, it has to culminate with your team winning a championship.
So I understand a little bit what Jay Williams is saying. Anything short of a championship this year would be a failure. But with all that being said, you can't say that she's the most prolific scorer that you've seen in women's college basketball, but then not call her great. Because then I could just easily say, well, is Dan Marino not considered a great quarterback? Obviously he is. Is Barry Sanders not considered a great running back? Obviously he is. And neither of those 2 players were able to win a Super Bowl. So I understand where he was going. Maybe if you said you can't be the greatest of all time, that's a different story. But to say you can't be considered great or you can't be called great, it was just a lot of bull junk, let's just say, in the words of Coach Prime that was going on in that response from Jay Williams.
And I think you qualified it perfectly. If he said she can't be considered amongst the greatest of all time, then that's part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Fine, I'm okay with that. But him saying that she can't be considered great is idiotic, right? Like, Karl Malone is great. He never won a title. Mm-hmm. John Stockton was great. Yeah. Never won a title. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, they were great. Mm-hmm. Never won titles. You could be great without a title. You can't be in the GOAT conversation with that one, though.
And let me just say this. There is no person in my lifetime, and I remember the Tennessee teams. I loved Gino Auriemma as a kid with all those great UConn teams, and obviously Diana Taurasi was mentioned there. There has been no one that has made me want to watch college basketball more than Caitlin Clark.
But entertaining and great are different. She's great also, yes, but entertaining and GOAT are different stories.
Yeah, but because of her greatness is why I find her entertaining and why I want to watch her. And what she's done has just been absolutely incredible. So, like, we are 10 years ago, 5 years ago, if we spent this much time talking about women's basketball on a national radio show, it would be because of a controversy. And now we're talking it because of the actual hype and buzz about this game tonight in a great rematch with Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but also the game that follows it with UConn and USC as well. Women's basketball in a very good spot. All righty, big thanks everyone for joining us today. To Nick Pringle, Ian Eagle, Stu Kovacs, Michael Sam, each and every one of you will be back again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye.